When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. And when it comes to checking off coverage, a State Farm agent can help you choose an option that's right for you. Whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Unfiltered discussions. Unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Oh, hi, welcome. Happy Hump Day. You can send your friends a camel emoji. There's one with one hump and one with two. You're welcome. All right, here's what you're going to learn on tonight's program. A dad recently went viral for making his 6-year-old daughter pay rent. We're going to have him on the show. He says it's not about the money, but it's about teaching budgeting and responsibility early. But what do the critics say about a 6-year-old paying rent? I'm looking forward to that, and that'll be halfway through the hour. Then, the other night, I caught myself thinking of an old friend I haven't spoken to in years. I'm sure it's happened to you. You type out a quick, "Hey, how are you?" text message, then you delete it. Maybe you enter their number on your phone, but you don't call. We hesitate. We worry it'll be awkward, but there's research on connecting with old friends. And it shows reaching out may matter more than you'd realize. Towards the end of the hour, we'll invite you and yourself to think about why it might be time to send that text message. There's something you can do about that funny feeling when you think of old friends, and you'll learn what that is later in the program. Okay, that's just a slice of tonight's lineup. There's going to be more, so let's dive in. This changes everything again. Maybe Apple copy from their 2028 event, who knows? But yesterday, Apple had a launch event that our foreign correspondent, Tony Five, is very excited to talk about. He reports live from the scene in his apartment. Tony, welcome to the show.
David, I love me an Apple product. I am a fanboy. I love Steve Jobs. I love everything to do with Apple. If they let me go to Cupertino, whatever it is, that big round building, I've had Apple phones, I think, since the Apple iPhone 1, and I think we're on the 33rd or something now. So yeah, I'm loving life. You're not a fanboy, but I know someone who is.
I certainly do as well. Tony, you just did that thing where you enter a sentence with no idea how you're going to end it, and then you just trailed off, and I loved every minute of it. Tony is our fruit expert. That's why he knows things about Apple. We are also joined by another fan of Apple products to discuss this important event that I care nothing about. He is the show's technical producer. He is our board op. He is a wizard of audio, and I don't know why he hasn't been on the show yet. He just sort of hangs out in the sidelines producing the show, but he's a wonderful human being. And his name is Adam Karch. Adam, welcome to the show.
It is so nice to be here with you guys.
Shut up! Whoa! The Dumbledore of decibels.
Oh, I like that.
The Sauron of sound.
Tony used ChatGPT to generate those for sure.
No, that came right out of my head, David. I'm not even, look, my hands are here. Look, no ChatGPT today, my friend. No ChatGPT. How are you, Adam?
I am doing wonderful today. I'm so excited. Are we talking Apple products?
Well, we are, but I'm the naysayer. Although I do use a Mac laptop, I do so reluctantly. I kind of hate the company and I kind of hate their products, and I hate how they lock you into their ecosystem. They're kind of like very good products, and so I use them, but I wish there was an alternative.
There is an alternative. I mean, Microsoft used to be right up there, yeah? But now you have to use like Linus, don't you?
Linux is the one.
Well, same difference. He's in Charlie Brown.
It's just for audio stuff, which, believe it or not, this is a real show and we are professionals. You can't really beat a Mac. Can you, Adam?
No. Do you want to know my Apple cred, just so that, I'm the real deal here.
You went on a date with Steve Wozniak and your wife was very upset?
You do look a little bit like Steve Wozniak. I was trying to work out who it was.
It's the beard. It's the beard.
Yes, it is.
Here's my Apple cred. I've had an iPhone since the iPhone 3G. Okay, so now I have a 15 Pro. So okay, I have a MacBook Pro. I
Nice.
did have an iPad. I think my girls broke it years ago, so I no longer have an
Good.
iPad, but I have an Apple Watch. I have Apple TV.
Yes.
I have the AirPod Pros.
Oh,
I love Apple.
The watch I never understood. Like, I get so distracted by my phone, but at least it's in my pocket on silent. Why would you want text messages and notifications and the weather and what this celebrity did popping up on your wrist every 5 seconds?
because, David, I use my wrist for a lot of things. And it's always nice to use the other one for something. I mean, like Adam, I've got the 17 Pro, Apple TV, AirPod, you name it. If Apple launched a knife and fork set, I'd more than likely buy it.
Adam, why do you use the watch?
It's a very expensive way of keeping track of your steps.
You can get, as my older brother calls it, a stepometer for like $10. Put it in your pocket. Speaking of Apple TV, one of the exciting announcements is that it's going to cost $3 more per month. Yay!
But do you not think the Apple TV product? I mean, David, one of our favorite shows, Severance, comes from Apple TV Studios. Come on, dude. Without Mr. Jobs, who is the name of the guy now? Is it? It's not Steve Jobs anymore. He croaked off, didn't he? I can't remember who the guy is. He's another one with like a thing. Tim Davey. Timbuktu. I can't remember.
Tim Cook, you idiot.
There you go.
I'm sorry, Tony. You're not an idiot.
I am, but it's okay to bring it to the audience of 7.
Not important to point it out.
Yeah, Tim Cook. Like, wasn't Apple the first company that used to do these huge presentations where they walk on and people are clapping and it's all like crazy and you get all the media people. Like Steve Jobs did that. I remember viscerally when he pulled out the Apple MacBook Air out of a brown envelope? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Fantastic. And yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, before that, laptops were huge. You used to have to put them on your back and, you used to give up a baby for them or something. But now...
I don't know where people think Apple invented touchscreens. They invented small laptops. They invented like smartwatches. They invented none of this stuff. They did make the products better. They did launch them with fanfare and acted like they invented it. For example, they launched their AI product, which isn't very good, and they just called it Apple Intelligence, the acronym being AI. They basically took credit for AI. It's this good artist copy, great artist steal kind of thing. They do make great products, but they didn't invent any of the things that you think they invented.
I mean, you're a naysayer, meaning you kind of talk to horses, so I don't know where you should get away with that. But I do like the fact that there is like existing products. Like, for example, I know there are folding phones, right, that Samsung make and all these other companies make. When Apple makes a folding phone, people are going to be queuing for days for this thing.
You're right. And it'll be like they invented it.
Yes.
And even yesterday's announcement, like, what are they really doing? They're just doing refreshes to their stuff. Maybe a better camera, a better processor, a better screen. But it's nothing like mind-blowing or paradigm shifting that they announced yesterday.
No, that's true. I checked the specs. I mean, I have a 15 Pro Max. Got to say Max.
Nice. Look at him. Look at him showing his extra 2 inches.
I
eh?
know. It's a great phone. It's, for me, as much as I love the new toys, it's not worth the upgrade for me.
Yeah.
I don't like how they kind of lock you into everything. I know people who have got Samsungs or HTCs or any of the other products, like David's like, he just showed me how to do something on a computer, which was like a developer thing. And it is like going onto the dark web. I know it's not the dark web, but I felt like I was doing stuff on the dark web with David. Developer this and seeing code here. You can't do that with Apple. It's all locked down and you can only download their apps and stuff like that. So I feel that you're kind of really gatekept. You can't do stuff, whereas other people can. And I think it's super smart, like how they've done it.
From a business perspective, it's smart.
Yeah.
But, the vendor lock-in where they force you to use their ecosystem, their apps, developers have to apply to get their apps into their app store. They can't just create stuff and distribute it. I hate all these practices. Adam, what a pleasure it was having you on the show. It's nice to get to meet you. We appreciate all the great work you do and hanging out on the sidelines, making sure the show sounds good from an audio perspective, not from a content perspective. That's our responsibility.
No, not even the great Woz could do that, David.
Yeah. But we appreciate you coming on, Adam.
My pleasure. And may I just mention, I think it's really cool that we are doing this in 3 different countries.
Yeah, technology's amazing, but Steve Jobs did not invent the technology we use to do this show from 3 countries.
He did invent countries, though, David. He did invent countries.
He did. The iPhone country, too.
Correct.
Tony will be back after the break as we go into the future to explore the past with advice for your tomorrow self from yesterday, I think. Tony, we'll have you back in a moment.
Thank you.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
United Healthcare nurse Crystal checked in on a patient.
We do a routine call after surgery, and I could tell in her voice that she was struggling.
Crystal knew she needed help.
And I knew that this is very serious. This is like septic. This is life-threatening.
And she knew just what to do.
And I called the hospital and said, she's coming in, here are her labs.
And got her the help she needed.
I see my role at United Healthcare as a life-saving role.
Hear more stories like Crystal's at uhc.com. Benefits, features, and/or devices vary by plan area. Limitation and exclusions apply.
Advice for your tomorrow self from yesterday, or maybe from today for tomorrow. If you're confused, you're not alone. This is what happens on the last show with David Cooper and Tony Five.
That's right. It's advice for your tomorrow self from yesterday, from today, from yesterday, maybe in the future, possibly in the fast, which is the past if you misspeak. Tony, welcome to the show, my friend.
David, I'm glad you're still able to speak after your festival training. Yes, my friend, we are back with my wonderful segment, Advice for Tomorrow, for yesterday, for today, that we record yesterday, that we play today, for people for tomorrow, that you can listen to in the future if you need to.
Certainly, everything you just said is correct. It's very simple. In the past, Tony and sometimes I record advice for ourselves, and then we play it in the future to connect with our past using our very fancy time machine. We're working on the technology to get future advice from today to today from the future, but we can't get that figured out yet. Tony, let's play your advice.
Hello, dear boy. My advice for today, for tomorrow, from yesterday, for today, that I'm going to do tomorrow, for today, for yesterday, which I've missed so very, very much, David, is I want to take up a hobby. I'm really quite jealous of people who have got like hobbies and things to do and things that they can throw themselves into. So that's my aim over the next couple of days. I am going to find myself a hobby. Well, that's it. Unless a hobby is like talking to you. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. Bye-bye.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Isn't radio a hobby? I mean, I guess you're a professional. I guess we're a real radio show.
Really?
I mean, for me, this is full time, but for you, you have a day job, so I guess it could be considered a hobby.
No, I want something that I can get myself into, that people will go, oh, I don't know. I was with someone earlier on today who's a collector. And he collects all these things and he wants them in a pristine... basically, he collects Pokemon cards. And he's a grown man, right? And he collects Pokemon. And he's ones that are like thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars. He doesn't ever open them. He keeps it in. I don't understand Pokemon. You probably do. I don't get it. I don't understand the urge to keep them. Apparently, there's a big thing. You can watch people just opening packets of cards on YouTube. It's a thing. If there's a super duper amazing shiny card of a little monster with a little willy and a big eye, fantastic. You know, like David saw. And you know, I just don't get it. But I want to be that enthusiastic about something, David.
Well, if you've got a hobby suggestion for foreign correspondent in London, England, Tony Five, give us a call at 1-888-505-6644. That's 1-888-505-6644. I have been accused of being a hobby addict. Like I always have, whether it's video games or an instrument or, some coding project. Because I used to be a software engineer before I went into radio. I'll like write all these little hobby coding projects. I'll half finish them, like LEDs or old televisions that I programmed to play weird videos, or I just soldering things, or it's endless. If you look in my closet, there's the dying remains of like 50 different hobbies that I invested some money in, got the tools I needed, and then gave up on them.
So you're a hobby. See, I can't be a hobby. I want to be like a hobby monogamist. I want to stay with a hobby forever and then be known as this guy that has hobbies. My brother was like a stamp collector. My dad used to love cameras and things like that and would be really into it. I just haven't got that thing, and I would love to. What video games did you play when you were young? I can't imagine you playing video games.
StarCraft, which came out in the 90s, I still play occasionally to this day.
What is that? Is that like a Dungeons and Dragons type thing?
Kind of. It's like a strategy game where you're staring at the world and you like have all these like alien beings that like attack each other and stuff.
Oh, all I'm hearing is virginity. That's literally, when you talk about that, all I can hear is in your bedroom, virginity. Okay, so StarCraft. What else? What other games did you play?
Well, I was a very focused, serious pedal steel guitar player for a time, which is like a country western instrument that you play with a slide.
Oh, my God, David, when you said pedal steel, I honestly thought that was some sort of list you're on that I needed to be careful about talking.
No, that's a different thing. I built like little computers.
Yep.
I built clocks for one point in my life using old like salvaged Soviet Union technology. These old light bulbs with filaments in them.
Nixie
tubes. Yeah,
Dude,
Nixie
I
tubes.
know about Nixie tubes. They're like the little orange 10-segment thing. You used to do that. Iron 32s, iron 22s. I know my Nixie tubes, baby.
I did that about 20 years ago when I was still in university. I paired with this architect and we sold them in a store, like a craft store or art store. I don't even know, like snowboarding. And Miranda,
Really?
my girlfriend, always accuses me of like getting too passionate. And in fact, stand-up comedy could arguably been one of my hobbies that I stuck to for about 5 or 7 years and gave it up. And my biggest fear when I started doing radio like 10 years ago or whatever, I suppose I did my first radio program 9 years ago. Wow. We met like 8 or 7 years ago. We met just a year after that. That's a whole side conversation. My biggest fear to my therapist was like, oh my God, I found my medium. I'm in love with radio. I want to give my life to this. I want to be on the radio. But for now, it's just a hobby. Like I had a day job. And I would say to her at the time, for the attentive listener, my current shrink is a man. My old one was a woman. So in case there's any inconsistencies with what I talk about. But back then, I would say to her, my biggest fear is that radio is just another hobby that I'm passionate about. And then I would just give up on.
Would end up in your cupboard with
it would
your
end up that my microphone would end up in my cupboard. Yeah,
just like there in the background, like this horror cupboard of all of your past loves. Wow. I see. That's so strange. Yeah.
The telltale sign that I know that it's an interest that I'm passionate about now that I'm going to give up on is I get really interested in gear. So for stand-up comedy, I got really interested in notebooks. So like I would spend my time, rather than writing jokes, I would spend my time researching notebooks and pens. I kid you not.
No, I imagine that. I can see that now with the stuff you have now. You have like the greatest little push button things and all of that.
Radio's a little different. I bought this microphone like 7 or 8 years ago. I spoke into it. I set it up and I'm like, wow, I'm happy with my tools. I do not spend my time researching gear for radio. I spend my time working on the actual thing.
Doing radio rather than the ancillary products around radio.
Exactly. But when I was like into clocks, I'd spent all my time like researching the little microchips that drove the clocks. I didn't just like create them and I was done with it. So for me, the telltale sign that I'm really interested in today, but not tomorrow, is that I get really interested in the gear and not interested in actually growing my craft.
That's fantastic. You know what? I would never see you as that. There are so many things that I don't know about you that when you say it, it really surprised me. When you said like you're a video game nerd, it's like my mind immediately went to you on a sofa, sitting on the floor, playing computer games.
This was the tangent of the lifetime, and I somehow, and I think we all know the reason why, because I'm an insecure narcissist, I turned this into being about me.
Correct.
But for you, Tony, I think you should pick an instrument, like an easy one, like maybe the trumpet, or maybe, something with not too many buttons, something with not such a steep learning curve. I think you should be a musician. It's very rewarding being a beginner musician. You grow so quickly. You could take lessons once a month or once every 2 weeks. It doesn't have to be weekly. I think you should learn an instrument.
I think you're quite psychic. So in my second year of senior school, I tried to learn the trumpet because I really had a thing about Louis Armstrong, but only knowing one song of his, What a Wonderful World.
And I think you can get like a beginner trumpet on Amazon or something for not too much money.
And then just start annoying my neighbors with it, yeah?
Exactly. And we could have a weekly segment, Tony's Trumpet Time. And it's alliterative. It's perfect.
I have a better idea. If you're a listener and you have a hobby and you want to teach it to me on a weekly basis, call up the show or email me, tony@lastshow.pizza.
The number on the show, 1-888-505-6644. Tony's about to get out of here in a minute, so if we don't pick up, just leave a voicemail. We'll call you back on the show. Tony's hobby hovel?
Yeah, David, as I said before, name first, content second.
Tony, love you, man. Appreciate you being on the show.
Bye-bye, baby.
Tony 5 is our foreign correspondent out of London, England. Coming up after the break, the dad who went viral for making his 6-year-old daughter pay rent. Critics don't like it. Some parents think it's a great idea. He's trying to teach his daughter about budgeting and financing, so we will get the scoop in just a few minutes. But while you're waiting, should a 6-year-old have to pay rent? Seriously.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Go all in on fall with Abercrombie Kids. Their newest drop of on-trend outfits are ready for everything, from the bus stop to family bonfires. And it wouldn't be fall without football. Gear up the kids with officially licensed NFL tees and sweatshirts. Shop Abercrombie Kids this season in the app, online, and in-store.
We're building a wall between bad radio and good radio, and it's called The Last Show with David Cooper.
Most parents hand their kids an allowance. Seems nice, but financial coach Michael Madden had a bit of a twist on this one. His 6-year-old daughter pays him rent. He says it's not about money, though. It's about teaching budgeting and responsibility early. His idea and video associated with it went viral, and tonight we'll hear why it struck such a chord with people. Michael, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
The video is kind of interesting. People really loved it. I mean, millions of people watched it. Tell me the origin story there. Where does the idea of charging a 6-year-old, I'll say quote unquote rent, where does this idea come from?
Overall, a lot of people really, really did love it. You know, you had a couple of of course, the naysayers, right? But majority really did. And I feel like the idea came from, I just wanted to teach her about money management and financial literacy. So I figured, hey, what would be a fun way to do that? And, kids, right? If you have them, you do. And they love playing, right? Like, we're going to role play, we're going to play house, or we're going to play T-set, or this and that and the other. So I kind of put together a little deal where, hey, we're going to collect rent from you, but we're also going to give you an allowance for checking off tasks on a short chart. And these are just things that they were, she was already doing, right? Like, or hopefully doing, like brushing her teeth twice a day, feeding the cat. So it's not all about cleaning, but just mainly tasks that we would love her to do. And it really just got her excited about doing it. So it's been great.
Interesting. So she's not earning the cash like by going to the coal mines. You're not violating any child labor laws here or anything like that.
No, just all in the house.
How do you decide on the rent amount for a 6-year-old to pay? in this allowance and chores and rent system?
Yeah, good question. So she's 6 years old, so her income is kind of based off of her rent, right? So we're giving her $5 a week, so $20 a month, and I wanted the rent to be somewhere in the range of like 20%. Now, most families and people today, they wish they could be paying only 20% for their housing cost. A mortgage banker will go up to like 50%, and a rental place will at least want 33% for your income. So 20%, I feel like that would be really good. And if you could do that for yourself, 25%, that's kind of what I teach. Hey, make sure your housing cost is no more than 25% of your income if you want to, win with money. So that's kind of where the concept come from. Now, people were like losing their mind in the comments, like, I can't believe you charge your daughter 90% rent. I'm like, no, she gets $5 a week. So there's usually 4 or 5 weeks in a month, and kind of how to break it down for them. But
I'm no mathematician, but your math does check out there, I got to say.
Yeah, I'm not a mathematician either, so it's pretty straightforward.
Age appropriateness. I'm sure there are naysayers who say, oh, she's too young for that. To them, what do you say? I mean, I'm of the opinion this is more like a game than it is real rent and income and this sort of stuff. But what do you say to the naysayers?
It is a game. Yeah, it's totally like, and she loves it. She's ecstatic about checking things off the list, and she's like reminding me like, hey, it's payday today. Like, it's payday. And if I forget on Saturday, hey, Dad, you didn't pay me yesterday. I'm like, all right, honey, I'm going to pay you. Don't worry. But yeah, like I said, there's been a couple naysayers, but majority it's been really, really positive. I think I kind of just have fun with it, right? If somebody says something crazy, like, I just either don't respond or respond in a fun way. But one that came to mind was like why are you doing this, or what's the benefit, and just educating people. But honestly, a lot of times I don't have to say anything. I have people coming into the comments be like, no, this dad's doing great. That's awesome. I wish I learned this when I was, a kid. So it's been great with the community.
Well, to that end, people wishing they learned things as kid, what is like one money lesson, one life skill you would want kids, let's say your daughter, to learn from something like this, or to have learned when they were young?
Yeah. So I would just say, just being aware of your finances, right? Just having like an overall general awareness of where your money's going. Now, obviously, I also want to teach her on how to make money and not just be like a worker bee mentality and a mindset. But I think overall, having a general principle of living below your means and a difference between a want and a need, right? So we go to the store and we'll bring this is her budget binder, and she'll want a bag of Skittles, and we don't do a lot of sugar, but occasionally we'll give a treat. But ultimately, if she wants something, I'll say, hey, honey, do you have the money to pay for it, right? So, and then she's able to determine, well, I do have it, but it's in savings, and, I don't want to spend that, so I'm good, right? Or maybe she does. Maybe she does want to buy the M&Ms, and she's got the money in her spend account.
Why don't we teach kids and young adults these things? Like, a lot of kids just get thrown out of school into their first job, and they have no idea what a retirement account is. They have no idea how to balance a checkbook. Do people even do that anymore? They have no idea how to budget. Why do you think we don't teach these skills to people young?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know.
Basically, I'm asking you what's wrong with America. So just answer it in a simple sentence. Yeah.
Do we have a few hours? Maybe it just didn't make the curriculum cut. Maybe they want us to be, broke, dumb, and uneducated. I don't know, right? But like, as a parent, I want to teach financial responsibility, and that's what I do with families every day. So, and it's a big problem. I mean, majority of the average American has $7,200 of credit card debt, and I'm sure that translates right over to Canada, right? The average person can't cover a $600 expense if it hit them in the face tomorrow. I mean, these are big problems.
Yeah, they certainly are. To the video, how does it feel when a video that you post suddenly racks up millions of views, thousands of comments, press? I mean, you're on my show, which is probably the lowest form of press, but still, how does it feel when something like that happens?
Yeah, completely wild. I figured, maybe I'd get a few parents to relate And, I figured, hey, if I got, 5,000 views, that would be a win in my book. So when this thing took off and started blowing up, I was like, oh my goodness. And I was just sitting back and just like, it was just like boom, boom, boom. Every day, every time I refreshed my screen, it was like, X amount of more views, 100 more followers every time. It was wild for sure. And then people started reaching out to me. And at first I was like, wait, is this legit? Okay, I vetted them out. Yeah, you are a journalist. Okay, great. Yeah, let's talk. Sure.
Those other people were journalists, and then there was me. Let's zoom into what you just said. You wanted to find parents to relate to your video. Did you? Did people reach out? Have people tried things like this? Or have people written you things that really said they were moved by stories like yours?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people were like, hey, I love this content. I wish I learned this. And, it's one of those things where they're reaching out to me, hey, how do I implement this on my own? How do I do this? How do I do that? So I would literally just be like, hey, here's where I bought this. Go check it out. And then since then, everyone was asking me, hey, how do I implement this? And I thought it was rather self-explanatory, but I'm like, maybe it's not, obviously, if I get a bunch of people that are asking me. So I just went and I created a guide on how to implement this starting at the age of 5 and all the way up to 15 years old, and age-appropriate task and the reason and the why and the how behind it. So yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Well, at the commercial break, I'm probably going to have to feed my cat and brush my teeth twice, but I don't think I'm going to get $5 for it. So I guess life just isn't as easy for me. I appreciate you coming on the show, Michael, and sharing the story. It's a great video. You can find Michael Madden on Instagram at Michael_talksmoney. Michael, thanks again. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you. All right. Glad to be here.
All right, I should probably tell you that if you like what you hear, but you're just tuning in or you're not going to be with us the whole night, The Last Show is available as a podcast. You can search David Cooper Last Show on your favorite podcast app or head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's .pizza, not .com. There's never a .com with that. And there you can find out details of said podcast and how to subscribe. Stream the show on the go while you're luging. Do you luge? Here's what's coming up next. Have you ever thought of an old friend but stopped yourself from reaching out? Why do we hesitate? And what happens when we finally make that connection again? After the upcoming break, the surprising power of reconnecting and why you should probably send that text message.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality walking shoes, which might lead to another discovery.
40,000 steps, baby. Who's on top now, Karen?
You've taken the office step challenge a step too far. Don't worry, though. Sierra also has yoga gear. It might be a good place to find your zen. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Cooper's Law tells us that the complexity of a relationship is inversely proportional to its explanation. You're listening to The Last Show with David Cooper.
Have you ever thought of an old friend, started dialing their number, and then you just don't make that call? Well, it turns out you're not alone. I've done it, and I always regret not dialing on the phone. So why do we hesitate to reconnect with old friends, especially when reaching out might be the best thing you can do? I'm here to discuss this with social psychology PhD candidate at Simon Fraser University in BC, Canada, Kristina Castaneto. Kristina, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You have looked into why most people want to reconnect with old friends, but don't. Whenever I am about to, I get this weird nostalgic feeling, but I just feel like I'd be in imposition. Why look into this whole experience that a lot of us have had?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking. Well, there's a whole bunch of research out there showing that social connection, social relationships are a key predictor of health outcomes and well-being and happiness. But a lot of the literature focuses on close relationships. But I think that there's a new up-and-coming field that's showing that acquaintances and strangers, we actually have benefits from reaching out and connecting with these people as well. So old friends is an area of research that's basically untouched, and I feel like it's an undervalued pathway to happiness as well.
So that moment of hesitation, why do we get that? as I read a summary of your work and as I read an article that you wrote, that feeling, I get it so often and I just don't DM people. I just don't send that text. I just don't make the call. Is this a common experience that a lot of people have?
It's incredibly common. We find that first off, up to 90% of people have what is called an old friend. And when we give people the opportunity to reach out, about 30% of people are willing to do it. That means 70% are not willing to. And these are in ideal circumstances. So it's an old friend they want to reach out to. The relationship didn't end on bad terms. And they think this friend would be happy to hear from them. And they have their contact information. But even still, they don't want to. And there's a whole bunch of reasons that people have given. It's awkward, too much time has passed, they don't know what to say, they don't know if they're going to be important to this friend as they are to them. So there's a lot of resistance there.
That fear of rejection, I think, comes into play a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Notes that people draft to old friends, but then maybe don't send. What are some of these things people are about to send or that they want to say to their old friends?
This was a really cool part of our research. I actually got to read all of them. We had collected over 800, nearly 900 real reaching out notes that people had written to their old friends. They had drafted the message first, and then after the fact, we gave them the opportunity to send it or not send it. And people were saying all kinds of things. They were bringing up past memories. They were being super casual, just saying, hi, how are you? Some people were acknowledging the distance and actually taking responsibility for the fading contact. And some people were suggesting like future meetups.
So let's talk about the risks, the downsides. Having an old friend say, hey, I don't know you, dude, or I don't remember that thing you're referencing, or even worse, no response at all. Those are the risks. But what do we stand to gain from reaching out to old friends and reconnecting?
I feel like there are a few gains. For one, like I said before, social connection. You can never go wrong with getting more boosts of social connection throughout your day. We have a field called under sociality, which is like you underestimate how much you appreciate connection, so we don't take those chances as much as we should. Talking to your barista, talking to the taxi driver, talking to someone on the bus, like doing all of those little instances of social connection are really helpful. And I think reaching out to old friends, these are people that were part of your life at one point. I think we don't realize how large of a network we actually have. And when you step back and think about it, it's kind of like, wow, I know so many people. So many people have been part of my life. And then you go and talk to them. And sometimes, yes, they'll leave you on red. I actually have, to not be a hypocrite, I've done this a few times. I've reached out to old friends, partly because of genuinely wanting to reach out to them, partly because I want to just see how this works in my own practice. Sometimes I meet with them and we actually reconnect. Sometimes they leave me on red. Sometimes they're like, thanks for reaching out. I don't know how we actually work with each other in like this current time of our lives. So wish you well, that type of thing. I think it's less about the reaction of the friend and it's more about your personal abilities to connect with others and be someone that cares about a lot of people. I think that self-competency is really important.
Do you think the risk is worth the reward in the end, having done this research on this area?
I think so. I think people put too much pressure on it because I think when I talk about this, they think that we're asking people to become best friends again or like just fully rekindle. You have to go out and hang out with them. We're not asking that at all. Really, it's more about you're thinking about this person and wondering how they're doing. Why don't you just say hi, you know?
Let's talk about the old friends themselves. Do they want to hear from us? I think we probably underestimate whether they would like to hear from us, but how does it feel for the old friend? Me reaching out, how does it feel to make that connection?
I think that's a good question. Of course, there's going to be a mix. There's going to be some people who are very hesitant on the receiving end because people have told me things like, oh, they'll get asked about a myriad of like, oh, can I sell something to you? And then it's just a bad experience. But I've also found there's a lot of research. People tend to appreciate it more than we think. They focus more on the surprise element. They're like, whoa, I didn't expect to hear from them. That's kind of nice.
Nowadays, we've got like digital culture. 150 years ago, I might have to get on a boat or rely on a letter being carried by people on, a letter carried by people on horseback. to get to the friend. It's so easy. I can text, I can social media DM, I can get in touch with pretty much everyone I've ever met with very little exception. Does that somehow add to the pressure that our old friends are always kind of immediately available to us all the time?
I would say maybe, but I feel like because of the age of social media and that we have all these people on our follow list, we're liking all of their posts. There's this sense of connection that we have with people, but we're not actually interacting with each other in a meaningful way.
On a personal note, I mean, you mentioned your research caused you to reach out to old friends. Has it changed how you approach your own friendships, having looked into all this stuff?
I think so. I think it also affects how my current relationships are. I try to take more opportunities to reach out. So if they pop into my head, I just make more of an effort to pick up the phone and send a message, even if it's super brief, even if it's just a meme, even if it's just like hi, thinking of you, something like that. And I feel like it helps and people start to practice it more as well. Even when I'm just talking to people about all of this work just casually, I've gotten messages like couple weeks, couple months later, just being like, hey, I actually took your advice and I went and reached out to someone and it actually turned out really well. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I really enjoy hearing those stories.
For someone who the idea of reaching out to old friends feels daunting, is there any advice other than just try it? I mean, what advice would you give to someone?
So in my most recent research, there we explored who is most likely to reach out and what they say when reaching out. So we wanted to see if certain personality or characteristics or note content makes it more likely to happen. But we didn't find really consistent results. So to me, that kind of suggests that there isn't one key type of person, one clear type of messaging that makes reaching out more likely. So in that sense, everybody is capable of reaching out if they just take the chance. So there's no need to wait for the perfect moment or fear that you waited too long. You just go for it. So yeah.
So is the short of it just the next time an old friend pops in my head, or to a listener out there, the next time one of their old friends pops in their head, just to take the plunge, reach out? The risks are definitely overshadowed by the rewards.
Yeah, and we also found in our work that most people who have the old friend are willing to talk to their old friends, but no one is willing to initiate. But if no one initiates, then nobody is connecting with each other. So just go for it. That's my advice.
Well, Kristina Castaneto is a social psychology PhD candidate at Simon Fraser University in BC, Canada. Kristina, thanks for talking to me about this research. I am going to, at the commercial break, reach out to someone, I promise.
Thank you so much. I hope it goes well. Happy to hear it.
Coming up next, loneliness. It can be felt so deep it hurts, like a real ache in your chest. Yes, research confirms that, and details in a few minutes.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Streaming now on Peacock.
We sell toilet tissue and local newspapers. That is in order of quality.
From the crew that brought you The Office.
My name is Ned Sampson. I am your new editor-in-chief.
Comes a new comedy series.
Have you read this paper?
Uh-huh. It sucks. But we are going to make it better.
Meet the underdog journalists.
I hope it's not too disruptive to have me shake everything up.
Don't be so self-defecating.
With major issues.
Oscar. Oh, God. Not again.
The Paper. Only on Peacock. Streaming now.
This is your invitation to a journey where relationships are dissected, science is simplified, and the news is hilariously twisted. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Have you ever felt loneliness so deep it actually hurts you, like a real ache in your chest? Well, it turns out research backs that up. It's what's really happening. A massive global study found that loneliness and physical pain are shockingly linked. So let's dig in with someone who worked on that study. She's Dr. Lucía Macchia. She's a behavioral scientist from the University of London. Lucía, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
What struck me about your study, like on a personal level for me, is I've felt that intense chest pain when I've experienced extreme loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
Does what I experience kind of line up with what your study found? Is it common for people who feel really lonely to feel pain in their bodies?
Yes, absolutely. It's even more common than we can imagine. So in that paper, we had data from 139 countries, if I remember correctly, the right number. And we found that people who experience loneliness versus those who don't experience loneliness report greater pain. And that means that the emotional aspect of feeling lonely can be translated into the human body, into physical pain. And that's proven by science.
Oddly enough, I kind of felt alone in that experience. Like I'd never spoken to anybody about it. But when I read, well, I didn't read the paper. It was very technical. But when I read a summary of the paper, I was shocked to hear that it was so common. How common is this connection between loneliness and pain for people who are experiencing loneliness?
First, we can analyze both. Well, we scientifically say measure or psychological state separately, because physical pain can also be a psychological state, and we can talk about that in a minute too. More than a quarter of people in the world feel lonely and feel pain in different degrees, in different countries. That can vary across countries and also different groups of the population. But the main point here is that these are very, very common experiences. And what we found is that they are strongly linked. One can feel a lot of loneliness and a lot of pain, but sometimes we kind of realize that those things are connected and that one is causing the other.
And where is the pain typically experienced? For me, it's like the chest. It's sort of associated with difficulty breathing, maybe what the symptoms that someone might associate with an anxiety attack. Are most people reporting that it's in their chest?
That's a very good question, because the measure that we use in the study is whether people experience physical pain the day before. So it's yes, no, what we call a binary measure. So we cannot really tell where the pain was experienced. But we know from previous studies that pain in the chest, as you described, and the reason why that pain appears is because it's connected to some sense of sadness. That's why people experience pain in the chest when they feel lonely. And the other two types of pain that are quite popular are neck pain and back pain, because that's where most of the tension can be found or is concentrated when we experience this type of negative emotional events or situations.
It isn't just the loneliness, though. It's this concept of psychological distress. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about how distress seems to be driving this notion of pain.
If we try to combine these three measures, so loneliness, psychological distress, and pain, and we usually draw a triangle just to really understand the direction of the relationship among these situations, the idea is we feel lonely, we experience psychological distress due to that loneliness, and then the psychological distress increases the pain in the body. The way in which or the mechanism that links distress and pain is biological. There's no magic. So some people say, like, why emotional sadness or anger or worry or even stress increase pain? It's not magic. It's that there's inflammation and tension in the body and the body hurts. It's just that. So there's a biological explanation. But the idea is that we feel lonely, we feel distress, we feel a big set of negative emotions, and that's what increases the pain that we feel in the body.
Let's talk about who's experiencing this. You looked at data, as you said, from over 100 countries. Were some places people feeling pain when lonely more than others, or was it universal? No matter what country you looked at, everyone kind of experienced this similarly.
We have two answers for that question. So the first one is that we can say that it's universal. So when we organize the values of all the variables across all countries, of course that there are some countries with more loneliness and more pain than others, but we found that that's present to some degree in all the countries around the world. So there was no a single country with zero in loneliness and pain. There was some at least percent of the population that experience either loneliness or pain. So we could say that it's pretty much a universal phenomenon.
Interesting. When you worked on this research, did you ever reflect on your own experiences or the experiences of people in your community? Was there any personal connection? I guess I'm trying to ask, what made you curious about trying to find this link or at least study this link scientifically?
Yes. I started working on pain a couple of years ago during my postdoc. And what really calls my attention is that it's not only loneliness, there are a lot of other social aspects that can influence physical pain. For example, discrimination, social comparison, which is nowadays with social media quite present in people's lives. For example, if I have more than another person, it doesn't matter how much money I earn. It matters whether I have more or less. And having less than another person, the people I'm comparing myself to, that hurts in my body, which I found crazy in the moment when I found that in my studies. But at the same time, it explains, or at least shows, how social situations that are not connected to injuries in the body can influence pain. And loneliness is just one of those social or psychological factors that influence pain.
I think we all know anecdotally, or we've been told, there's this loneliness pandemic, that loneliness is not so great for our health. But what your research really does is it kind of scientifically makes the link. It sort of arms us with information about how loneliness is not great for us. What sort of solutions to loneliness would you like to see? Like, how would you like to see your research being used to help people?
Well, I would say that one of the solutions that I've been put into practice mainly here in England in the NHS and in other community services is social prescribing, which is the idea that doctors prescribe social activities to the patients. And that happens, and it's useful in cases where the pain is chronic. It can also be used for mental health issues like depression, anxiety. So people who are referred to these social activities like gardening, a book club, singing, this type of activities, they report lower pain or an improvement in their pain and their mental health status. Why? Because it reduces loneliness and increases social connection. That's why it's also called social prescribing. But in my view, that's the most promising solution.
I mean, if you go to the doctor with scurvy, they're going to write you a prescription for vitamin C pills. If you're feeling lonely and pain associated with it, it seems community building, could be any activity that builds any form of community, would be a great way to help address it, wouldn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Any further research you've got in the pipeline in this area?
Well, I'm not now looking at the difference between pain and suffering, for example, because sometimes we use both words to refer to the same event or the same feeling, and there's a big difference. So they predict different well-being outcomes. For example, both predict loneliness, but loneliness is the only distress event or distress item, as we call it, that both of them predict. So both of them predict loneliness, but they do not predict worry, anger. But there are differences in positive well-being. But the only distress situation that both of them, pain and suffering, predict is loneliness. So linking back to the loneliness study.
Well, Dr. Lucía Macchia is a behavioral scientist from the University of London. Lucía, thanks for talking to me about your research. I've really enjoyed the chat.
Thank you.
After the break, it's Wednesday, which means it's broadcasting's only mental health-specific content intended to air on a Thursday that airs on a Wednesday. Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. I'll reconnect with my friend, our therapist, about my recent sobriety milestone, 6 years. And we'll cover a serious topic, World Suicide Prevention Day. So sensitive listeners or parents with small children will want to be advised. That in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
When your therapist won't take your calls anymore, there's always The Last Show with David Cooper.
Oh, it is Wednesday, and we are here with Gary Direnfeld, which means it's Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. Confusingly named, sometimes confusingly aired, but we're here anyway. Gary Direnfeld is an expert in family and marital therapy. Gary, my friend, it is nice to see you. It's been like a while.
I feel like I'm waking you up for this today.
I'm alive. I'm just, only partially alive, probably.
I think you're still recovering from Burning Man.
That is maybe true. It is an exhausting place to go. For those who don't know, it's this arts festival in the desert. That's where I was for the last 2 weeks. I just spent 2 weeks in the desert, using porta potties. I had an air-conditioned tent, but it wasn't great. It is hot during the day. It is dry. It is cold. The wind came. The rain came. It was a lot, my friend.
You and some 70,000 other people who descend and make this makeshift city almost overnight, and then after 2 weeks, just as quickly, tear it down.
It all turns into dust. I feel like you would enjoy it, actually. I worry about maybe your heart or something, because of the intense. I'm serious. It's an intense physical environment. It gets up to 40 degrees Celsius, 90 degrees Fahrenheit in the day. At night, it's dropped below freeze at night. It's dropped below 0 Celsius the night before.
Wow. Those extremes, it's so bizarre. I can't imagine. How did you survive?
I mean, I've got a good crew there. We have meals provided for us because we all work the event. There's a radio station at the event. I don't know if you've heard of this phrase. I've said it on the show recently, but I heard it from our contributor, Tony Five. It's called the busman's holiday. It's a British idiom.
Yes, that's a common idiom. I know that.
I've never heard it until he said it, but that's basically like when you do your same job on your vacation, basically.
Yes. I do that. Whenever we used to go to California, I'd call ahead to the Department of Social Services saying, I'll be in town. Would you like me to do a workshop? And I always got these workshops in California, and it paid for my holiday.
It's basically a vacation for a workaholic is what that is. But there's a radio station there that I volunteer at that's a lot of fun. It's so much fun. We had so much fun. And I felt very creatively invigorated by being there, which was kind of surprising to me because after the last few years of going, it was just kind of like routine. I've been to this event 11 times. Wow. So after over 13 years, so it just started to feel like routine, but just this kind of so it's this radio station and any of these 70,000 people could just walk in and make an announcement. And so you end up with this very chaotic foot traffic community radio station with these drop-ins
who are spontaneous.
Very much so. And they're all dirty hippies who have probably done too many drugs and just came from a sex tent. It's a weird slice of life and it's a lot of fun. And we did very free-form stuff. And it got me thinking this show that I've been doing for the last few years, it's sometimes free-form, but it needs to be a little weirder. I need to sort of bring in that element of creativity that I had there. I don't know why you're laughing, but I guess it's kind of funny. But
it is kind of funny. But I actually don't mind that because it comes with that spontaneity and creativity.
Exactly. So I found myself creatively invigorated. I was around a lot of drugs and alcohol. It's a bit tough as someone who just hit 6 years sober this past Monday, September 8th. So that was kind of trickier than normal. It comes and goes in waves, being around alcohol, being difficult for me. And that was kind of tricky, so that was a bit hard on me. Of course, I didn't slip up. But
the temptation, it's always on your mind. You're always working against it. It's a conscious moment-to-moment decision at times.
You asked me how it was, and I described the extremes in the weather. But one thing that's great about this event is it's extremes in experience. So you get these very big lows. You're strung out. It's dry. You stayed up all night to watch the sunset. You're in a terrible mood. And then the next day, you're doing the greatest weird radio show of your life, or you're out with your friends seeing this amazing art. So it really is an event about extremes. And that's what makes it so lovely. It's sort of like having a child. You don't have a child because it's always amazing. Having a child is a thing you do that has extremes. You're going to be strung out, underslept, arguing with your partner about changing a diaper, and then you're going to be sitting there with your baby, the happiest you've ever been with your family.
Let me be clear. I'm not going. I don't do extremes. I think I've told you before. I aspire to boring. So, my life is between here and here, not there and there. And in aspiring to boring, what I mean by that is there's no drama. Things are kind of humming along. Okay.
No, it's a good lesson, and I think you can aspire to boring at something like Burning Man, which is just like take care of yourself, eat, sleep, don't succumb to temptation and do mind-altering drugs that are going to make you upset the next day.
I'd certainly be observing and just watching.
I mean, the people watching there of these hippies, out of their mind in crazy costumes, sometimes naked, is among the best people watching you can ever imagine.
I'm gobsmacked. There's another British term.
I don't even know how you explain this event. I've been trying to do it for days on this show, but that's how it was. It was a lot of fun. Sobriety milestone. It doesn't feel like a big celebration. Should I celebrate when I hit a milestone like that?
That's such an individualized question. Should you celebrate your sobriety milestones? I think it's helpful to reflect on it and to recognize it. The degree to which you want to celebrate is up to you. The value of reflecting on it is so that you do so with intention. I think sobriety always takes intention. Mm-hmm. So when you do reach those milestones, I think it's helpful to reflect on that and the accomplishment that it signifies. Now, having said that, people will fall off the wagon. Sure. And when we do, we don't want them to beat themselves up about it.
No.
We would want them to reflect on what was going on that contributed to falling off the wagon or tempting fate or whatnot again. What was going on? And is it truly a one-of, or is there something built into the experience that says, this could be a problem, even though it was a one-of?
I call it the falling victim to the I'm a piece of garbage cycle. If you do slip up or fall off the wagon or get on the wagon, and where's the wagon going, what's on the wagon, that's a conversation for another day. If you do fall off the wagon, tomorrow's another day. You can start being sober the next day. But the real risk is I'm a piece of garbage. I'm a piece of garbage who chose to drink today. Therefore, I should just drink again tomorrow because I'm a piece of garbage. You can get trapped in a cycle where if you fall off the wagon, you think lowly and bad of yourself. You've let yourself down. So why not just let yourself down the next day? You can use letting yourself down as justification for bad behavior the following day. Because it's like, well, I didn't make this commitment to myself. I broke my commitment to myself. I'm not a great person. Therefore, I should just break the commitment tomorrow. That's a trap. That's a feedback loop that's negative.
Absolutely. I want people to recognize we're human. We all fall with something. The other piece to this is when one is celebrating whatever length of time in sobriety, be careful about being boastful. Don't lord it over the head of someone else that perhaps I'm better than you because I've been sober longer.
No, that's garbage. That's garbage right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as you celebrate, if you celebrate, be mindful about with whom you celebrate and how is that received by the other. So there's a lot to unpack with reaching a milestone.
Here's what I want to talk about with Gary Direnfeld after the break here on Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. A little content warning for sensitive listeners, parents with children. We are going to discuss suicide and suicidal ideation. It is World Suicide Prevention Day. That falls on September 10th every year. We'll discuss that with Gary in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Visit Blinds.com now for up to 45% off with minimum purchase plus a professional measure at no cost. Rules and restrictions apply.
Please be advised that the following program contains audio content that may be graphic and potentially triggering for some listeners. This content may include descriptions or sounds that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is strongly advised. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Before we begin here, I want to give a little content warning for sensitive listeners or parents with children. It is World Suicide Prevention Day, so we will be discussing that, topics of suicide and suicidal ideation, so please do be advised. It is Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. We are joined by expert in family and marital therapy, Gary Direnfeld, to get a little serious, to get a little reflective here. Gary, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you. Good to be broaching this subject, Suicide Awareness Day. There are so many myths and biases around the discussion of suicide. People think you have to, in a sense, be out of your mind. And okay, for a few, that might be the case. But those who are contemplating or those who follow through with suicidal behavior or up to and including death, it's not always depression, David. It's not always mental illness. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's anger. Sometimes it's
despair.
Sometimes worried that a secret will get out. Sometimes one has done something for which they feel shameful and don't know how to manage it. There are so many varied reasons why people contemplate taking their life.
There certainly are. And it's such a tough topic to broach. It's such a tough topic to address. I'm often left speechless when these things come up, not knowing what to say. But I think it's an important conversation to have. It's one that people don't hear, like honest, frank discussions on this stuff.
And part of that is the myth that if you talk about it, you might inadvertently be encouraging it. And that is a myth. If one is worried about somebody contemplating or following through with suicide, raise it. Raise your concern. These are what we call difficult conversations. From my perspective, you can be somewhat blunt. You can start any difficult conversation by saying, I have something to talk to you about, and I feel awkward raising it, but I think it's important. That's an opener. And then say, you've been out of sorts for some time, and I don't know fully what's going on. Are you thinking of hurting yourself? You can put it out there. And, there's a saying, you cannot not communicate. Behavior is communication. The person who looks away, the person who takes a moment to answer, the person who jumps in too quickly, you can say, I hear what you're saying. I see where you're looking, and it doesn't set me to ease. Come on. What's going on? It's a conversation to which you want to bring your empathy and compassion and, sincerity. That was the word I was looking for, sincerity.
One of my, I don't know if failings is the right word, but one of the ways in which I've acted in the past when I've dealt with a friend who has expressed suicidal ideation to me is I'm very quick to pathologize it, which is to say I'm very quick to think, oh, this needs medical attention, this needs professionals, I need to dial 911, rather than just like being present in the moment and listening. Because I think that helps a lot, just that human connection. For me, when I've been in a place where I've been thinking about suicide, I haven't in many years, but I do have major depression and it's, medicated and in remission or whatever. But in my late 20s, it was not when I first separated from my ex-wife. I just wanted someone to listen to me then.
Yes.
And so I don't know where I went wrong when I've had a friend kind of express these feelings and ideas to me, and I'm very quick to say like, oh, you need a psychiatrist, or oh, we need, crisis intervention, or you need to call the suicide support line, and not just being those things that you mentioned.
And it's not uncommon that people do exactly what you are saying, and that is a reflection of the person listening being overwhelmed by what they hear.
Sure. I'm not saying I did so maliciously, but
no,
yeah.
No, that isn't maliciousness. It's being overwhelmed and fearful for the well-being, the immediate well-being of the person. And so what we tell people, if you're in that moment where the discussion is being had or the thinking is being disclosed by a person, that's where you have to self-reflect, catch your own emotions, take a deep breath, and depending on the person, but you can even put a hand on their hand and say, let's slow this down.
Yeah.
Let's slow this down. What do you mean? How long has it been? What's going on? What can I do for you? So don't rush to getting them help immediately in the circumstance that you're describing. There are other circumstances. If someone's ingested pills, if somebody has cut themselves.
If there's an immediate danger, you're saying.
Yes. When there is an immediacy, we're going to act with that sense of immediacy.
Sure.
But again, we want to manage our disposition. We want to do so as calmly as possible.
I guess for me, earlier in my journey as a friend, I didn't see the difference between someone just expressing feelings of pain and hopelessness or there being like an immediate threat to their physical safety. And this idea of getting someone to slow down and just listening, when I've been in a dark place like that, my mind is swirling around, connecting things that don't really make sense or justifying arguments that justifying why I feel pain and hopelessness with things that don't really connect. And my brain's just going too fast and connecting things that don't make sense. It makes sense to me at the time in the sense that it just ends me up in this horrible place. If I slow down, or I have a friend who's trying to get me to slow down and just think these things through or just go through these things at a slower rate, that can help.
Yes. You have identified here on air that you suffered major depression. You're medicated for it. So there is a difference in terms of the person's presentation when they have a bona fide mental illness versus some other reasons for which people contemplate suicide, again, such as shame, a misdeed, being caught, having something horrible done to you that you don't know how to manage, sexual abuse, bullying, where you feel that there is no way out. So these are, different circumstances. So some people will benefit from medication, particularly if there's a mental illness. Some people will benefit from having a safe place simply to discuss and work out the troubling circumstance that's giving rise to their suicidal thought. And some people literally need to be rescued from harmful circumstances as well. So we always want to, that's why we need the conversation. That's why we do talk about it. That's why we are going to raise it, so that we can come to understand what's going on and, what might be helpful to the person in their situation.
Well, I feel like a good number to call if you're struggling is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. The number is 988. I think that works in both Canada and the U.S. Gary, I've appreciated this chat on this tough topic.
David, I'm always grateful to you. So pleased to be able to raise these difficult conversations between us, and always pleased that you practice self-disclosure. And so you demystify and destigmatize by being who you are. So thank you for that.
Well, my friend, you are but an oasis in the desert dystopia of this program. I appreciate you so much coming on. Gary, thanks for being here. That was Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. Have you ever felt overwhelmed at work? Maybe what you need isn't a new app, but a coach for your brain. Executive function coaching. What is it? Does it work? Why are people so excited about it? We'll find out after the break. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
Attention all small biz owners. At the UPS Store, you can count on us to handle your packages with care. With our certified packing experts, your packages are properly packed and protected. And with our pack and ship guarantee, when we pack it and ship it, we guarantee it. Because your items arrive safe or you'll be reimbursed. Visit the upsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product services, pricing, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Be unstoppable. Come into your local store today.
When the day is done, we're just getting started. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Difficult and demanding white-collar work is slowly dissolving our brains. It's tough to keep up. Enter the executive function coach, someone who's part therapist, part productivity whisperer, and part air traffic controller for your mind. But what do executive function coaches do? Have you heard of one? And why are they suddenly in demand? And do they fix people and broken workplaces? That's what we'll discuss with someone who's recently written on this subject. She's a contributor at Business Insider, and her name is Kelli Maria Korducki. Kelli, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Let us start with the basics. What exactly is executive function? It has nothing to do with executives in the workplace, does it?
No, it's all about the brain. So executive functioning is, you can kind of think of it as the control panel for your brain. It handles all of the task management, time management, emotional regulation. It's kind of all of the stuff that makes you function as a grown-up in the workplace is probably related to your executive functioning.
I used to work at a big tech company. It just turning on my computer in the morning meant that I was pulled in 1,000 different directions, let alone the work that I had to do, focused work that I had to do. I think it's hard to manage for a lot of people, just being in an office, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And it's especially difficult for people who have any kind of what we now call neurodivergence. So ADHD or autism spectrum disorder, that your executive functioning is really, really taxed if you have certain little neurospices.
And I think most people feel like they just have to manage it on their own. Maybe they complain to their own manager. Maybe there's someone at work who helps them keep organized a bit. But ultimately, a lot of folks feel like they just have to deal with a workplace that pulls them in 1,000 different directions. They have to deal with it on their own, don't they?
Well, totally. And, everybody has to deal with it to some extent. So there is a sense of, well, I need to figure this out. And not always a lot of support or encouragement or resources. So, yeah, it's kind of no surprise that this is becoming a thing.
But someone can help, and people do help, and there's been a rise of those who do, and they're called, like I mentioned, executive function coach. To me, this just sounds like a shrink, but I think it's a little more involved than that, isn't it?
It is, but it is a little shrink-esque. It's sort of like the fusion of a therapist and a career coach, like you said earlier. That's a really good way of describing it. Somebody who helps you kind of manage and break down the day-to-day of your life and just getting stuff done.
So how often are we seeing people retain coaches like that? I didn't even know you could hire someone like that. What does it cost? Tell me more about this whole thing.
So the coaching industry is not super regulated. It really depends on the person, on the individual, and the coaching relationship that they have. How the costs, from what I've gathered from my interviews, they can range usually it's usually somewhere in the 100 to even 300-ish a session neighborhood.
So it's not cheap.
It's not cheap, but it's kind of standard, I guess, therapy prices.
Yeah, and I want to touch upon what you said about the coaching industry. It can be a cesspool. It can be extremely helpful. You just have to label yourself a coach, and you can practice whatever you want. I'm sure there are amazing coaches out there, but there's a lot of, junk science or bad practices that are peddled in this industry as well. So whenever I hear coach, my skepticism hat gets put on. Are these folks really helping people?
Well, I spoke with a few people who are really getting a lot of benefits from their executive functioning coaches. And I also spoke with some coaches who really knew what they were talking about, who I felt very, I trusted them. I didn't feel like I was being sold a bag of goods, and I'm a skeptical journalist. So,
Fair enough.
I'm going in there with my journalist hat. And yeah, it's interesting because executive functioning coaching, yeah, it's coaching, and the coaching industry is what it is. It's a really mixed bag. But executive functioning coaching kind of comes from a tradition of accessibility.
Mm-hmm. Like the ADHD world. I imagine that's where it was originally pitched and the most helpful.
Exactly. So it comes from a more kind of established pedagogical place.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a tradition that a lot of other coaching is not. Like it's sort of it's inherited a bunch of best practices.
And big companies are on board with these programs, sometimes even paying for them. Companies like Chevron, Workday, Warner Media. Although the skeptic in me is like, are they just trying to prevent burnout? Are they just trying to do a Band-Aid for people who can't manage their work life to keep them working? Like, is that possibly the motive of some of these companies?
Yeah.
Is it really that simple?
Yeah. These companies want their workers to not get burned out and to not take sick leave. That's what they're doing. Like
so on the one hand, this stuff is really helpful, but on the other hand, companies aren't providing these services out of the kindness of their heart. They just want to prevent those who would struggle in the office to not struggle.
Yeah.
That is kind of interesting. I was hoping you'd come up with like an argument against this kind of negative point, but it's kind of the sad state of the corporate world these days. Let's talk about the specifics of how these coaches help. Like, what would a day-to-day session look like if I retained one?
So I think it would probably depend on your coach and on your specific issues, but generally you would be talking to your coach about the specific pain points of your current work life. Like maybe you would be talking about how you struggle with procrastination, let's say, for example. And, let's say you have a hard time getting focused, you put stuff off, then you're racing the clock on deadline, overwhelmed, burning out, working into the middle of the night like 3 times a week.
I don't know why you're describing me. It seems rude and personal, but keep going.
Well, so that would be one example of a thing that you might work on with your coach, and your coach would probably try to get to the bottom of why this is a consistent problem for you, the feelings that are involved, that there's probably some like emotional stuff that's underpinning this behavior, and so they'd kind of like try to problem solve this with you and give you a little outside perspective and then some tools to break out of that cycle.
Interesting. So like if I'm struggling with emails in the morning, maybe they come up with some techniques to deal with emails rather than just me arriving at work feeling overwhelmed and then the procrastination starts. Just little tricks like that, I guess.
Yeah, just like little trips and ticks. Tricks and tips.
Got it. Well, do you think these executive function coaches are here to stay, or is this just a Band-Aid on a workplace that like it just drags people in too many directions?
I think it's really useful for people. I mean, I think that executive functioning in general is something that people are becoming more aware of, just for many reasons. And we do live in a world, even, setting aside corporate demands, we live in a world that's very distractible. We have digital distractions pinging at us every single day, all day, which really taxes our executive functioning. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few years, but I certainly don't think that the interest in executive functioning is going to go away.
Despite my skepticism, when the budget of this radio show increases, I might hire one. It does sound amazing. I'm here with Kelli Maria Korducki. She's a contributor at Business Insider. Kelli, thanks for sharing the piece called The Rise of Executive Function Coaches. Thanks for sharing details about it and discussing with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is fun.
That is a wrap on our Wednesday night show. We so appreciate you tuning in, listener, singular intended. Do not you forget, if that makes grammatical sense, that The Last Show is available as a podcast. Just search David Cooper Last Show in your favorite podcast app or in your web browser. Head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's .pizza, not .com, and there you can find out more details of said show and stream it on the go, whenever you like. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I am David Cooper, and this was never the first show. Or was it? We'll see you tomorrow night.
What are you hoping to see by 2050?
And this is quite a statement. I think we will certainly have demonstrated that space-based solar power can be done, and that you can have not just detectable power, but useful power transmitted from space to Earth.
Today, I'm joined by Lauren Lyons. She's an incredibly accomplished aerospace consultant, engineer, former SpaceX and Blue Origin mission lead. Join me, Chris Hadfield, on the On Energy podcast.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts.